Hello everyone and welcome to day 57 of the 1000 days of Nocode challenge. Imagine this, you are organizing a bookshelf and there are hundreds of books scattered all over the place. Now instead of sorting them all at once, you pick one up, decide where it goes, and then you move on to the next one. A similar functionality in Bubble is called Recursive Workflow. In technical terms, recursive means you call the same function again and again and again. They tackle tasks one at a time and then move on to the next one. In today's video, let's explore what are recursive workflow and how does it work. We're seeing recurring events, right? Where a particular workflow will run on a recurring basis, right? It could be on a daily basis, it could be weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, and so on and so forth. But let's see what is recursive workflow. The name suggests that this is a workflow which will call itself again and again and again until we stop it. Recursive workflow is something when you want to run on a list of things but one after the other. Let's say now we have a list of users, right? So let's go to data and app data. Now we have this users added over here. Now if we want to add roll number to these users, okay, based on when they have registered on our platform, you cannot run a backend workflow on list of things because you will only know that the fifth user registered fifth when you finish 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So you have to first give the roll number 1 to the first user, roll number 2 to the second user, roll number 3 to the third user, and so on and so forth. Only then will you be able to find that the fifth user registered fifth. You can assign fifth roll number to that particular user. Now again, this use case can be very tricky, and that's why understand the concept and use it wherever you feel necessary, right? So just for us to understand, I'm going to user and I'm going to create a roll number field, right? So I'll make this as roll number and field type can be text. Now I know that roll number is a number. Now this could also be text because we are not going to do any mathematical operation on top of roll number, but we need to do a mathematical operation in the backend workflow to assign this roll number, and that's why I'm creating it as a number. You will understand what I'm talking about. So I'll go to backend workflow, click on new, go to general, API workflow, and we will create assign roll number, and I'll uncheck this particular checkbox. I'll add a parameter called users, and this will be of type user. And we want to send all the users to this backend workflow so that we can run it one after the other and assign the roll numbers. And that's why I'll make it as a list array, right? And we need one more parameter, which is roll number. And this is the number. Okay. So we've got two inputs to this particular workflow. One is list of users. The second one is roll number, which is a number. Now I'll go to data and make changes to thing. Here, thing to change would be users first item, because we are going to make changes to one user at a time. And change another field would be roll number, and the roll number is the roll number that we have got as a parameter. Okay. So once we are done with the first user, then we are going to schedule the same workflow again, right? Which is assign roll number. Users will be users minus item, users first item. Roll number will be roll number plus 1. And this is why we made the roll number as a number, so that we can do mathematical operations easily, right? schedule date would be current date and time. Okay, I'll explain again. So we send list of users to the backend workflow with roll number being 1. The first step is we took the first user out of that particular list, assign the roll number. The roll number in this case is 1. Now we are scheduling this particular workflow again, okay, this time removing the first item from the list, and roll number is roll number plus 1. So now roll number became 2, and the next time when we come here, we will be operating on the second item of the list. One last thing we have to do is we don't want this to go infinite. We do not want this to run infinitely, and that's why we will add users count is greater than 1, right? Only when the users count is greater than 1 do we want it to schedule itself with removing the first item from the list. When the user count is 1, we have already processed it, and hence we do not need to reschedule again. I'll explain this with an example of Google Sheets, right? So let's go to Sheets. Let's say we have users here, and we are going to add roll number here. Okay. So here we have user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4, and so on and so forth. Now we are sending this as a list of things to the backend workflow, and the roll number in the first case was 1. We will assign this, and then we will remove this from the list of things that we have got. Okay. Mind you, this is not deleting from the database. It is only removing from the list so that we can operate on the second item now, right? So user 2 can have roll number 2 now because it is roll number plus 1, right? Then we will remove this item from the list. Yeah. Now the roll number is 3, and then we will remove this from the list, and now the roll number is 4. Okay. That's how this operates. Again, please do not get confused because I've deleted from here. That was only for you to understand how the list works. We are not deleting it here, right? So delete operations happens from here. Delete thing, we have not used that. We are just removing it from the list of items that we have got in the parameter, right? Let's see how this works. So what I'm going to do is we have this admin over here, right? So I'm going to add a button over here, and let's call this as assigned roll number. I'll click on add workflow, and then we can schedule API workflow, assign roll number flow. Users is admin selected users, right? Roll number, it starts with 1. Schedule date would be current date and time, right? We can click on this ignore privacy rules when, okay, you can leave this empty for now, right? So let's see if this works fine. I'll go to AppData. I'll log in as admin because only admins can log in into this particular page. Now I'm going to select the users. Closely observe that I'm going to select, I selected 10 users from page 1. I'll go to page 2. I'll select 10 more from here, right? Come to page 1. These are already selected, right? I'll click on assign roll number. Now let's go back to data, right? And then select this particular roll number field so we can see if this is getting updated. Okay. I'll load 50 more items because it starts from the scratch. You can see that it has got updated for the first 10 users and then it stopped, right? We selected 20 users, but it has updated only for 10 users. Click on refresh data. It still isn't updated. And the reason is, go to settings, go to API connector, right? And you have something called max workflow depth, right? Now, a lot of times developers fail to add this particular condition, okay? And it will keep running in loop forever, which will consume a lot of server capacity. And that's why Bubble, just to be on the safer side, they've added this 10, which means when you are calling a recursive workflow, which calls itself, it will run a maximum for 10 cycles. Okay, this is default. But if you want it to go all the way, then you can make it as 100 or 1K, 5K, whatever it is, based on your requirement. Now, for our case, I'll just make it as 100 so that you see that this works fine. And I'll come back, select all the users in page 1. I'll go to page 2, select all the users in page 2. I'll go to page 3. I'll select all the users in page 3 as well, right? And I'll not go any further because we can already see this working. Assign roll number, go back to data and load 50 more. You can see that it is assigned until 30 now, one by one. So it started with 1 and it went all the way until 30. This is recursive workflow, and that's what is recursive workflow. Now, some of you might wonder, why do I have to use recursive workflow when I could run a simple backend workflow on list of things? The main reason someone would want to run a recursive workflow is when there is dependency on each of the items. Like in our case, we saw the roll number, right? You cannot run a backend workflow on list of things when you don't know what would be the item's roll number. And that's why we chose to run it as recursive workflow. Just understand the concept, and wherever you feel it is necessary, you can use it. Take it step by step. Don't hesitate to experiment. Sometimes the best ideas come when you're trying something new. And that's all from us for today. Thank you for watching. And as always, I will see you in the next one.